The third way. Monday morning. You've done the work. You're prepared. You're second on the agenda. Then Sarah jumps in. Actually, I've been working on something similar, she says, pulling up slides you've never seen. Half your ideas. Your framework. Your language. But her name on every page. Your manager nods approvingly. Great initiative, Sarah. You sit there, blood rising to your face, calculating, do I call this out and look petty? Do I stay silent and let her steal my work? Do I play the game the way she's playing it? This is office politics. And if you're someone who values integrity, who wants to succeed without becoming everything you despise, you've probably asked yourself, is it even possible? Can you navigate workplace power dynamics without selling your soul? Can you advance your career without stabbing backs, kissing up, or playing manipulative games? Here's what most people get wrong. They think there are only two options: play dirty or get played. Become a political shark or remain naive prey. But 2,500 years ago, Confucius faced the same question in the cutthroat courts of ancient China. Places where a wrong word could cost you your position or your life. Where favoritism, backstabbing, and power plays were the norm. His answer wasn't avoid politics entirely. It was something far more sophisticated: learn to navigate power without compromising principle. He taught that you don't have to choose between integrity and effectiveness. You can be politically savvy whilst remaining ethically grounded. You can build influence without manipulation. You can rise without stepping on others. But it requires something most workplace advice doesn't teach: a framework for ethical strategy. Not be nice and hope for the best. Not play by their rules. But a third way, one that's been tested in the most brutal political environments in human history and proven to work. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how Confucius would handle modern office politics. Not through abstract philosophy, but through 7 practical principles you can use tomorrow morning. By the end of this video, you'll know how to handle the colleague who undermines you, how to manage up without becoming servile, how to build real influence without playing games, and how to protect your reputation when others are spreading lies. This isn't about becoming political. It's about learning to operate effectively in an environment that already is political, without losing yourself in the process. 7 principles. 1 framework. Let's begin. Principle 1. Know your role, honor your place, lead in hierarchy. Here's what trips most people up about office politics: they fight battles they were never meant to win because they don't understand positional power. You're a mid-level manager. You have a brilliant strategy that would save the company millions. You present it directly to the CEO in a meeting, bypassing your boss. The CEO loves it. Your boss freezes you out for the next 6 months. What went wrong? You violated Li, the Confucian concept of knowing what's appropriate for your role and position. Li isn't about kissing up to hierarchy. It's about understanding that organizations have formal and informal power structures, and violating them, even with good intentions, creates enemies you don't need. Most workplace conflict doesn't come from bad ideas. It comes from presenting the right idea in the wrong way, to the wrong person, through the wrong channel. Confucius taught in the courts of ancient China, where hierarchy was absolute. But his advice wasn't obey blindly. It was understand the system well enough to work within it effectively. Here's the distinction most people miss: there's a difference between respecting the position someone holds and respecting the person in that position. You can do the former without the latter. The mistake everyone makes. Your manager is incompetent. Everyone knows it. So you start going around them, directly to their boss, to other departments, to anyone who'll listen to your superior ideas. You think you're being efficient. You're actually being politically suicidal. Because here's what you've just done: you've publicly demonstrated that you don't respect formal authority. And even if your manager's boss agrees with you privately, they're now worried, if this person undermines their current manager, will they undermine me too? You've made yourself unpromotable. This isn't theoretical. I've watched brilliant people destroy promising careers this way. They were right about the ideas. They were right about their manager's limitations. But they were catastrophically wrong about how organizations actually work. Because organizations, especially large ones, run on predictable chains of command. Not because that's the most efficient system, it often isn't, but because it's the system that prevents chaos. When you go around someone, you're not just disrespecting them. You're threatening the entire structure that keeps the organization from flying apart. And the people at the top didn't get there by being careless about structural threats. The Confucian approach. Confucius served under several rulers he privately disagreed with. But he maintained impeccable formal respect for their position whilst finding subtle ways to influence their thinking. The modern translation: work through the system, not around it. Even when the system is broken. Let's say you have that brilliant strategy. Here's how you'd handle it with Lee. Wrong approach. You present directly to the CEO in a meeting. I've been thinking about our market positioning, and I believe we're missing a major opportunity. Your boss sits there, blindsided. You've just made an enemy. Confucian approach. You schedule time with your boss privately. I've been working on some analysis of our market positioning. I think there might be an opportunity worth exploring. Would you be willing to take a look? If you think it has merit, I'd love your guidance on the best way to present it to leadership. You've done 3 things. 1. Respected their position by coming to them first. 2. Given them ownership, they can present it if they want credit. 3. Asked for their political guidance, positioning them as mentor, not obstacle. If they shut it down without reason, you have data. If they take it and run with it, even taking credit, you've achieved the outcome and built a reputation as someone who makes their boss look good. That's currency. And here's what's fascinating: 6 months later, when your boss gets promoted, they remember who made them look good. When they're asked who should take your role, your name comes up. Not because you were the loudest or the most brilliant, but because you demonstrated you understand how power works. Modern scenario: the meeting ambush. You're in a cross-functional meeting. Someone from another department openly criticizes your team's work. Your manager is in the room. Instinct: defend yourself immediately. Launch into all the reasons their criticism is unfair. Result: you've just undermined your manager's authority. They're the one who should be defending the team. You've made them look weak. They'll remember. Here's what most people don't realize: in that moment, you're not just responding to criticism. You're making a statement about whose authority matters in that room. By speaking first, you declared, "My authority to defend this work supersedes my manager's authority to defend their team." Your manager may not consciously articulate it that way, but they feel it. And so does everyone else in the room. Confucian move. You pause. You look at your manager. "Sarah, do you want to address this, or would you like me to provide the context?" You've just acknowledged their positional authority, given them the option to lead, positioned yourself as deferential without being weak. If they defer to you, you respond. If they take the lead, you support. Either way, you've demonstrated understanding of Lee. And here's the subtle brilliance of this move: you've also protected yourself. If your manager fumbles the response, you're ready to step in with substance. If they handle it well, you've boosted their confidence in you. You can't lose. The deeper pattern. Lee isn't just about hierarchy. It's about understanding the invisible web of obligations, debts, and relationships that actually runs every organization. Your company has an org chart. That's the formal structure. But it also has an invisible network of who actually influences whom, who owes favors to whom, who has credibility on which topics, who can't be publicly opposed even when they're wrong. The people who rise fastest aren't always the most talented. They're the ones who can read that invisible network and work within it. They know that the director of engineering has the CEO's ear because they went to university together. They know that the head of sales can kill any initiative by claiming it'll hurt quota attainment, even when it won't, because leadership trusts her instincts. They know that the VP of product holds grudges and will block any project from someone who embarrassed him 3 years ago. This knowledge isn't written anywhere. It's learned through careful observation and occasional mistakes. And the people who learn it fastest are the ones who understand Lee. They're watching not just what people say, but what their position in the structure allows them to do. The tactical takeaway. Before any significant action, ask yourself, what does my role give me permission to do? What requires navigating through formal channels? Make a mental map. What decisions can I make unilaterally? What decisions require my manager's approval? What conversations can I have directly with other departments? What conversations need to go through my manager first? Who am I expected to defer to in meetings? Where is my visible authority, and where do I need to work through others? The more senior you become, the more freedom you have. Until then, respecting positional boundaries isn't weakness, it's strategic patience. And here's the paradox Confucius understood: the people who rise fastest are often the ones who never appear to be in a hurry. They work within the system so smoothly that when opportunity comes, everyone agrees they're ready. Because they've demonstrated something rare, they understand power well enough to wield it responsibly. The noble person acts before speaking, then speaks according to their actions. Analects 2.13. Principle 2. Build alliances through reciprocity, Ren in practice. Office politics isn't won through dominance. It's won through networks of people who'd rather see you succeed than fail. Most people approach workplace relationships transactionally. What can you do for me right now? But that creates shallow alliances that evaporate under pressure. Confucius taught Ren, often translated as humaneness or benevolence, but in practice, it's something more strategic, genuine reciprocity that builds lasting loyalty. The person who helps others consistently, without keeping score, builds something far more valuable than favors owed. They build a reputation. And reputation, in office politics, is the most durable form of power. Why most people fail at this? They think of networking as collecting business cards or LinkedIn connections. They help people only when they need something back. Or worse, they try to fake genuine interest. People can smell transactional networking from across the building. And it repels the exact people you'd want as allies. Here's what actually works: help people in ways that cost you little but mean a lot to them. Then forget about it. Not forget as in be fake about it. Forget as in genuinely don't keep a ledger. Because the moment you say, after everything I did for you, you've revealed it was always transactional. And you've just burnt the relationship. I've seen this destroy careers. Talented people who help strategically but can't resist reminding others of their generosity. They think they're building alliances. They're actually building resentment disguised as obligation. Because here's what people hate: feeling they owe you. But here's what people love: voluntarily wanting to help you because you helped them once without expectation. The difference is subtle but everything. The Confucian approach. Confucius taught that the superior person cultivates relationships without calculation. Not because they are naive, but because they understand that the best alliances are built on genuine goodwill, not obligations. Modern translation: be strategically generous. Help others succeed, especially when there's no immediate benefit to you. Here's what that looks like. The junior analyst on another team is drowning in a project. You have expertise that would take you 30 minutes to share but would save them days. Most people think, not my department. Not my problem. You think, this costs me almost nothing. And 6 months from now, when I need data from their department, I'm not just some random request. I'm the person who helped them when they were stuck. You offer help. You don't make a big deal of it. You don't mention it in meetings. You just do it. 2 things happen. 1, they remember. Not as an obligation, but as genuine gratitude. 2, people notice. Your reputation as someone who helps without calculation spreads organically. And here's what most people don't understand about reputation: it's not what you say about yourself. It's what other people say about you when you're not in the room. When your name comes up in a promotion discussion and someone says, "I don't know them well," what are they like? If 3 people independently say, "Oh, they helped me with X," or "they're generous with their time," or "they connected me with Y," that's political capital you can't buy with visibility or self-promotion. Modern scenario: the invisible alliance. You're working on a project that requires input from finance. Finance is slammed. Every time you reach out, crickets. Common approach: de-escalate. Email their manager. I've reached out 3 times and got no response. This is blocking my work. You've just created an adversary. Finance now sees you as someone who throws them under the bus. And here's the thing, you might get your data. Short term, you've won. But you've just taught finance that helping you is risky. Next time you need something, they'll drag their feet even more. You've won the battle, lost the war. Confucian approach. You find out what finance is drowning in. Maybe it's month-end close. Maybe it's a systems migration. You reach out, "I know you're buried right now. My request isn't urgent, can we schedule 15 minutes after the close is done? And if there's anything I can do to make your life easier in the meantime, let me know." You've just demonstrated understanding of their reality. Made your request reasonable, not demanding. Offered help without expecting immediate reciprocation. When you do eventually meet, they show up prepared and helpful. Not because they owe you, but because you've demonstrated you're someone who operates with Ren, someone who sees them as a human under pressure, not just a resource to extract from. 3 months later, you need something genuinely urgent. You reach out. They respond within an hour. That's the return on strategic generosity. But here's the crucial detail: you didn't help them to get that quick response later. You helped them because it was the right move. The response is a byproduct, not the goal. That distinction is what makes it genuine. And genuineness is what makes it durable. The political value of being known as helpful. Here's what most people don't understand about promotion decisions: when your name comes up, the question isn't just are they competent. It's who will they bring with them? Who will support them? Can they build coalitions? If you've spent years helping people across departments, when someone asks, "What do you think of your name?" the responses are, "Oh, they helped me on X. They connected me with Y. They've always been generous with their time." You now have political capital you never had to explicitly build. Compare that to the person who's technically brilliant but only helps their immediate team. When their name comes up, people say, "I don't really know them," or "I hear they're good at X." That's not bad, but it's not compelling. It doesn't suggest someone who can operate effectively across organizational boundaries. Leadership promotions aren't just about individual contribution. They're about your ability to make other people better, to get things done through influence rather than authority, to build the coalitions necessary to push initiatives through resistant bureaucracies. And that ability is demonstrated long before you're in a leadership role. It's demonstrated in how you build relationships when you have nothing to offer but helpfulness. The advanced move: help your rivals. Here's where Ren becomes truly sophisticated. There's someone on your level who's clearly also in line for the next promotion. You're competing. Most people would freeze them out, withhold information, let them stumble. That's exactly the wrong move. Because here's what leadership is watching: do you make the people around you better, or do you see everything as zero-sum competition? You help your rival. Not elaborately, but when they ask a question, you give a full answer. When they're stuck, you share what you know. Two things happen. One, if they get the promotion instead of you, they remember. And they'll likely bring you along because you proved you're not threatened by their success. Two, if you get the promotion, you've demonstrated that you're secure enough to help capable people around you. That's rare. And it's exactly what leadership wants to see in someone they're about to give more power to. The person who has to diminish others to look good is someone leadership will never fully trust with authority. Because they'll create toxic dynamics the moment they have power. The person who lifts others whilst still performing at a high level? That's someone who's scalable. That's someone who can build and lead teams, not just do good individual work. The tactical takeaway: spend 10% of your work week helping people who can't immediately help you back. Junior people. People in other departments. People who have no formal power. These become your distributed network of advocates. And when office politics turns ugly, you'll have people who voluntarily defend you, or not because they owe you, but because they've experienced your character directly. Keep a simple practice: each week, identify one person outside your immediate circle who's struggling with something you could help with. Reach out. Help without fanfare. Move on. Do this for a year, and you'll have helped 50 people. You won't remember most of them, but they'll remember you. And the network you've built isn't visible on any org chart, but it's real. And it's powerful. That's Ren. And in office politics, it's quietly devastating. The noble person helps others achieve their goals, not obstruct them. Analects 12.16. Principle 3. Speak truth without making enemies. Rectification of names. You're in a strategy meeting. Your team is about to commit to a plan you know will fail. You've seen this film before. The data doesn't support it. The timeline is fantasy. But everyone's nodding along. Do you speak up? If you stay silent, you're complicit in a disaster. If you speak up bluntly, you're not a team player. If you hedge too much, you're dismissed as pessimistic. This is where most people fail at office politics. They either become yes-men who watch preventable disasters unfold, or they become the person who always has a problem with everything. Confucius had a solution: zhengming, the rectification of names. The practice of calling things what they actually are, but doing it in a way that preserves relationships and creates space for change. It's not brutal honesty. It's strategic truth-telling. Why most people get this wrong? Option A, they stay silent to avoid conflict. They think they're being political. They're actually being cowardly, and everyone knows it. Your reputation becomes the person who never pushes back. When you finally do speak up on something important, no one takes you seriously because you've cried wolf by never crying wolf. I've watched entire teams drive off cliffs this way. Everyone in the room knew the plan wouldn't work. But no one wanted to be the negative voice. So they all stayed silent, nodding along, privately thinking this is a disaster. 6 months later, the project fails. Leadership asks, why didn't anyone say something? And the answer is, because the culture had taught them that saying something was more dangerous than watching failure unfold. Option B, they speak truth without any political awareness. This plan is terrible. Anyone who thinks this will work is delusional. They think they're being brave. They're being stupid. Even if they're right, they've just made it impossible for people to agree with them without losing face. I've seen brilliant people destroy their careers this way. They were right about everything, the analysis was spot on, the predictions were accurate, the concerns were valid. But they delivered truth like a weapon, and no one wants to work with someone who makes being right feel like being attacked. The Confucian approach. Confucius served rulers who often proposed disastrous policies. He didn't stay silent. But he also didn't commit political suicide by making them look foolish. His method framed truth in a way that gives people a path to accept it without ego damage. Modern translation: you can say hard things if you construct the off-ramp carefully. Here's the structure. 1. Acknowledge the intent behind the bad idea. 2. Raise a concern framed as a question or observation. 3. Offer a modification that saves face. This isn't manipulation. It's recognizing a basic truth about human psychology. People can accept being wrong about tactics if you validate that their strategy was sound. They can hear criticism if you're clearly trying to make their idea work, not tear it down. Let's see this in action. Modern scenario: the doom timeline. Your manager announces, "We're launching this product in 6 weeks." You know that's impossible. The engineering team has already said 8 weeks minimum. Marketing needs 4 weeks for a campaign. 6 weeks means cutting corners that will create a disaster. Wrong approach. That's not realistic. There's no way we can do quality work in 6 weeks. This is setting us up to fail. You've just made your manager look foolish in front of the team. Even if others agree with you, they won't support you publicly. You're now the negative one. And here's what's insidious about this: you've just taught your manager something dangerous. You've taught them that bringing up aggressive timelines in front of you is risky. So next time, they won't include you in the early discussion. They'll bring you in after the timeline's been committed to, when it's too late to change. You've reduced your own influence by being right in the wrong way. Confucian approach. I love the ambition of 6 weeks. It shows we're serious about getting to market fast. I want to make sure we're set up to hit that goal. Can we walk through the dependencies? Engineering flagged 8 weeks yesterday, and marketing needs 4 weeks for the campaign. If 6 weeks is the constraint, what should we descope or adjust to make it achievable? I'd rather hit a great 6-week launch than have a rough one that damages the product. You've just validated their intent, speed to market. Stated reality without accusation: dependencies exist. Framed the problem as logistical, not managerial. Offered to problem solve rather than criticize. Protected the manager's reputation: you're helping them succeed, not proving them wrong. If they double down on 6 weeks, you've created a paper trail. You raised the concern constructively. If it fails, you're not the person who stayed silent. But you're also not the person who was adversarial. If they adjust, you've saved the project and built credibility as someone who helps leaders think clearly. And here's the crucial thing: you've made it easy for them to adjust. They can say, "Good point, let's look at the dependencies," without admitting they hadn't thought it through. You've given them the off-ramp. That's the art of Zhengming. The advanced move: private first, public second. If the stakes are high enough, rectification of names often works better in private before the group meeting. You schedule 15 minutes with your manager. I want to make sure I understand the 6-week timeline. Here's what I'm seeing on dependencies. Am I missing something, or do we need to adjust scope? Now when the team meeting happens, your manager comes in with a revised plan. They look thoughtful, not reactive. You look supportive, not critical. Everyone wins. This is the move that separates political novices from masters. Novices think the meeting is where influence happens. Masters know that meetings are where decisions are announced. Influence happens in the one-on-ones before the meeting, where people can think without performing for an audience. When someone else is speaking obvious lies. You're in a meeting. A colleague is presenting metrics that are creative. They're not technically lying, but they're cherry-picking data to make a failing project look successful. Your instinct, call it out. Actually, if you look at the full data set, your reputation, destroyed. Even if you're right, you've just publicly humiliated someone. Their allies will remember. Your own allies will worry you'll do it to them someday. Because here's what you've really done, you've announced to the room that you value being right more than you value relationships. And organizations are made of relationships. Technical correctness without political awareness is a career-limiting trait. Confucian move. You wait. After the meeting, you approach privately. Hey, I noticed the metrics you showed. I think there might be some additional context that would strengthen your case. Mind if I share what I'm seeing? You've given them the chance to self-correct before the next presentation. If they take it, they look thorough. If they don't, and it becomes a problem, you have clean hands, you tried to help privately first. And if it eventually blows up, and leadership asks, did anyone notice the data issues? You can honestly say, I flagged it to them privately and offered to help resolve it. You're not the person who stayed silent. But you're also not the person who weaponized truth in a public forum. The deeper pattern, truth as service, not weapon. The fundamental shift Confucius asks you to make is this: stop thinking of truth-telling as moral courage that demonstrates your integrity. Start thinking of it as service that helps others succeed. When you make it about your courage, you'll deliver truth in ways that make you feel brave but make others feel attacked. When you make it about service, you'll deliver truth in ways that people can actually hear and act on. The question isn't, should I say this? The question is, how can I say this in a way that maximizes the chance they'll hear it and have the space to act on it? That requires you to choose your timing, not when they're defensive or under pressure. Choose your framing, not as criticism but as problem-solving. Choose your audience, private when possible, public only when necessary. Give them the off-ramp, a way to adjust without admitting they were wrong. This doesn't make you a political operator. It makes you someone whose truth-telling is actually effective, rather than just morally satisfying for you and politically useless for everyone else. The tactical takeaway. Truth-telling is a timing game, not a courage game. Before you speak up, ask yourself: 1. Is this the right time? Are they in a mental space to hear this, or are they performing for others? 2. Is this the right place? Would this be better said privately? 3. Have I constructed the off-ramp? Can they agree with me without losing face? 4. Am I framing this as service or criticism? Am I helping them succeed or proving I'm right? The person who can deliver hard truths in ways people can actually receive them becomes invaluable. Because most people can either be honest or be political, but rarely both. The person who can be both is the one leaders actively seek out for honest counsel. And that's the ultimate form of influence, not being the loudest voice in the room, but being the one voice leadership knows will tell them what they need to hear in a way they can actually use. To know what you know and what you do not know, that is true knowledge. Analects 2.17. Principle 4. Navigate up without kissing up, proper respect versus servility. There's a person in every office everyone despises. They laugh too hard at the boss's jokes. They volunteer for every high-visibility project the executive team mentions. They name-drop their lunch with the VP. They've mastered the art of looking busy when leadership walks by. They're also often the person who gets promoted. And this creates a crisis for people with integrity. Do I have to become that to advance? Do I have to kiss up to move up? Here's what Confucius understood that most people don't. There's a massive difference between respecting authority and debasing yourself to curry favor. One builds sustainable influence. The other builds contempt disguised as temporary advantage. Why this feels impossible? The sycophants seem to win. They get face time with executives. They get the good projects. They get promoted. Meanwhile, you're doing excellent work, staying in your lane, and getting overlooked. So you face a choice: maintain your integrity and watch mediocre people rise, or play the game and lose your self-respect. But that's a false choice. And it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how durable power is actually built. Because here's what you don't see when you're watching the sycophant get promoted: you don't see what happens 2 years later when they've risen above their competence and can't hide behind flattery anymore. You don't see how their teams quietly revolt against someone they don't respect. You don't see how executives start to realize they can't trust that person's judgment because they've never seen them disagree with anything. The sycophant's career looks like a rocket ship until it hits a ceiling. And that ceiling is lower than they think, because at a certain level, you can't fake substance anymore. The Confucian framework. Confucius served under multiple rulers. He showed impeccable formal respect, proper titles, proper protocol, proper deference in public settings. But he never debased himself. He never laughed at jokes that weren't funny. He never volunteered false praise. He never pretended incompetence was brilliance. And here's what's fascinating: the rulers who were secure in their own competence valued him more for it. The rulers who were insecure resented him, but those were the ones who inevitably failed anyway. His principle: show respect to the role, not subservience to the ego. This is a subtle but critical distinction. When you respect the role, you honor the position someone holds, the responsibilities they carry, the decisions they're empowered to make. When you're subservient to the ego, you're performing admiration for the person's brilliance, uniqueness, or superiority. One is professional. The other is degrading. And secure leaders can tell the difference immediately. Modern translation: the VP presentation. Your VP is giving a presentation. It's clear they don't fully understand the technical details. They make a claim that's not quite accurate. Sycophant move. After the meeting, you approach them. That was brilliant. The way you explained incorrect thing was so clear. I learned so much. You think you're building rapport. You're building contempt. Because they know it wasn't brilliant. And now they know you're willing to lie to flatter them. They'll never trust your judgment again. Because here's what just happened in their mind: if this person lies to make me feel good, what else are they lying about? Can I trust their data? Their recommendations? Their assessment of risks? You've just reduced your value to zero. You're now someone whose opinion means nothing because they know you calibrate it to match what you think they want to hear. Confucian move. After the meeting, you approach them. I appreciated the strategic framing in your presentation. On the technical detail about incorrect thing, I have some additional data that might strengthen that section for next time. Would you like me to send it over? You've acknowledged what was genuinely good, strategic framing. Corrected the error without making them look foolish. Positioned yourself as helpful, not sycophantic. Given them the choice to engage or not. If they're secure, they thank you and use the data. If they're insecure, they get defensive, and now you know who you're dealing with. But either way, you've demonstrated something valuable. You're someone who tells the truth in a useful way. And that's rare enough that secure leaders will seek you out for it. The meeting laugh test. Here's a simple diagnostic that reveals everything about your relationship with authority. When your boss makes a joke in a meeting, do you laugh? If it's genuinely funny, yes, laugh naturally. If it's not funny, don't fake laugh. This seems trivial. It's not. Because everyone in that room is watching who laughs at unfunny jokes. And those people are being mentally flagged. This person can't be trusted to tell me the truth. They're performing. I've sat in hundreds of executive meetings. And I promise you, this is being tracked. Not consciously, not in a spreadsheet somewhere. But in the instinctive assessment every leader makes about who around them is real and who's playing a role. The people who laugh naturally when something is funny and remain neutral when it's not. Those are the people executives learn to trust for honest feedback. The people who laugh at everything? Those are the people executives use for morale but never asked for strategic input. How to get face time without debasing yourself. The sycophant strategy: find excuses to be in the executive's orbit. Volunteer for their pet projects. Show up at events they attend. Manufacture reasons to email them. This sometimes works short-term. But it's exhausting, transparent, and fragile. The moment a shinier sycophant appears, you're replaceable. Confucian strategy: make yourself valuable, then let them seek you out. You become the person who delivers exceptional work consistently, solves problems before they escalate to the executive level, makes your manager look good, which gets noticed up the chain, provides honest counsel when asked. You're not chasing face time. You're building a reputation that creates face time naturally. When the VP has a thorny problem, your name comes up. Not because you volunteered, but because you're known as someone who delivers without drama. And here's the beautiful part: when they seek you out, the power dynamic is completely different. You're not the supplicant hoping for their attention. You're the resource they need. That fundamentally changes how they perceive you. Modern scenario: the executive asks your opinion. You're in a meeting. An executive you don't normally interact with turns to you. What do you think? This is a test. Everyone in the room knows it's a test. Do you tell them what they want to hear, or do you tell them what you actually think? Sycophant response: I think it's a great idea. Really strong strategic thinking. Even if you have reservations. Result: you've added nothing. They forget you immediately. Confucian response: I think the core strategy is sound. My concern would be execution timeline would need to solve X and Y first. But if we can address those, I think this could work well. Result: you've shown you can think critically, you understand the challenges, and you're focused on making things work rather than just agreeing. That's memorable. If they're insecure, they might not like it. But insecure executives don't build lasting success anyway. If they're competent, you've just differentiated yourself from the chorus of yes men. And here's what happens over time: you become the person they ask when they actually want to think through a problem, not just when they want validation. That's real influence. The deeper pattern: confidence that doesn't need approval. The paradox of managing up is this: the less you need their approval, the more you earn their respect. Secure executives don't want followers. They want collaborators who can think independently. They want people around them who'll tell them when they're wrong, who'll push back on bad ideas, who'll make them better at their jobs. The sycophant offers none of that. They offer an ego massage and short-term comfort. But they're fundamentally useless for anything that matters. You, by showing you can respect their authority whilst maintaining your own judgment, offer something far more valuable: partnership. The tactical takeaway. Respect the position, challenge the thinking. Never kiss up. Never mock down. Treat executives with the same honest, professional respect you treat anyone else. No more, no less. When they're right, say so specifically. When they're missing something, say that too, but constructively. When they ask your opinion, give it honestly. The paradox: the people who don't desperately seek executive approval are often the ones who earn it. Because confidence that doesn't depend on validation is the rarest commodity in office politics. Principle 5. Handle backstabbers without becoming one, ye under pressure. Someone is spreading lies about you. You know who it is. You know why. They see you as a threat. And you know you could destroy their reputation if you wanted to. You have receipts. You have witnesses. You could go to HR, or better yet, whisper the truth to the right people and watch their career implode. Should you? This is where office politics tests your character. Because the temptation to fight dirty when someone fights dirty is almost overwhelming. And the workplace often seems to suggest that the people who strike first, strike hardest, win. But Confucius taught ye, often translated as righteousness or moral integrity. In practice, it means, when under pressure, when provoked, when betrayed, you don't abandon your principles for short-term victory. Not because you're soft. Because you understand that becoming what you despise is the only way to truly lose. Why most people get this wrong? Option A, they take the high road to a fault. They do nothing. They let the lies spread. They think their good work will speak for itself. It won't. Silence in the face of character assassination is career suicide. If you don't defend yourself, people assume the accusations have merit. I've watched brilliant people get pushed out this way. They were so committed to not playing games that they let their reputation get destroyed. They thought staying above it all was noble. But there's nothing noble about letting lies define you. Option B, they retaliate in kind. You spread lies about me? Watch what I do to you. They leak information. They undermine their enemy's work. They play the game exactly as it's being played against them. They win the immediate battle. But they've just revealed they'll compromise principle under pressure. Everyone watches. Everyone takes notes. The long-term damage is catastrophic. Because here's what just happened: you've proven that you're willing to be just as dishonest as the person who attacked you. And now leadership has to wonder, if we promote this person, will they use these tactics on us if we ever disagree with them? The Confucian framework. Confucius operated in courts filled with intrigue, backstabbing, and lethal politics. He never participated in it. But he also never allowed himself to be destroyed by it. His principle: defend yourself with facts, not with retaliation. Protect your reputation without destroying theirs. The distinction is critical. Defending yourself is necessary. Attacking back makes you the villain in a different story. Modern scenario: the whisper campaign. A colleague is telling people you're not a team player. That you take credit for others' work. That you're difficult to work with. None of it is true. But it's spreading. You're starting to notice people treating you differently. Wrong response A, do nothing. You figure people will see through it. They won't. Lies repeated become truth if unchallenged. Your reputation erodes whilst you wait for justice. Wrong response B, attack back. You find out what you can about them and start your own whisper campaign. Did you know they fudged those numbers? They're actually the ones taking credit. You've won the battle. But now everyone knows you'll play dirty when threatened. No one will fully trust you again. Confucian response. You address it directly with the people who matter, using documentation and witnesses, not gossip. You schedule time with your manager. I want to bring something to your attention. I've heard feedback that I'm not a team player. I take that seriously. Can you help me understand where that's coming from? Because here's what I'm seeing. You provide specific examples of collaboration, with dates and people involved. You've acknowledged the rumor directly, not hiding from it. Shown you take feedback seriously, even false feedback. Provided factual counter-evidence. Asked your manager to help you understand, positioning them as ally, not judge. If your manager is competent, they now know someone's running a smear campaign. You haven't named names, you don't need to. Your manager can investigate. And you've maintained higher ground. You do the same with key colleagues whose opinion matters. Hey, I heard some feedback that I might not be pulling my weight on team stuff. That surprised me because I really value collaboration. If you've seen me do something that gave that impression, I genuinely want to know. Most will say, no, I haven't seen that at all. Where did you hear that? You shrug, just some feedback that came my way. Wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something. You've now inoculated yourself against the rumor. Signaled that lies about you will be addressed. Done it without accusing anyone. Let people know there's another side to the story. The advanced move, give them an out first. Here's where Confucian strategy gets sophisticated. You approach the backstabber directly. Privately. No witnesses. I've noticed some tension between us. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I don't want it to affect our work. If I've done something to create this, I'd like to understand it. And if there's a way we can work together more effectively, I'm open to that. You've done something powerful. You've let them know you're aware. You've offered them a chance to de-escalate. You've positioned yourself as the reasonable one. You've given them an honorable exit. If they take it, the problem stops. If they don't, and the backstabbing continues, you've demonstrated you tried to resolve it professionally. When you eventually have to escalate, your hands are clean. And here's the sophisticated part: by approaching them directly first, you've also gathered intelligence. How they respond tells you everything about whether this is a misunderstanding or a deliberate campaign. That information shapes your next moves. When you have to name names. Sometimes the backstabbing is so blatant you have to address it directly with leadership. The principle: describe their behavior, don't attack their character. Wrong, Sarah is a liar and a manipulator who's trying to sabotage me. Right, in the last 3 meetings, Sarah has misrepresented my position on X. Here are the emails showing what I actually said. I don't know why there's a disconnect, but I need it corrected because it's affecting my ability to do my work. You've documented the pattern. You've avoided character assassination. You've framed it as a professional issue that needs resolution. If HR or leadership is competent, they'll see the pattern. If they're not, you've at least created a record that protects you if things escalate further. The long game of ye. Here's what most people don't understand about maintaining integrity under attack: the person who holds their principles whilst being attacked builds something the attacker can never take away, a reputation for character under pressure. 6 months later, the dust settles. The backstabber's lies have been exposed or they've moved on to easier targets. But people remember how you handled it. They remember that you defended yourself without becoming vindictive. They remember that you stayed professional when it would have been easy to get ugly. That reputation becomes protective armor for the rest of your career. Because the next time someone tries to undermine you, people's first thought is, that doesn't sound like them. I've seen how they handle conflict, and it's never been like that. The backstabber, meanwhile, has built a reputation too. And it's one that makes people wary of working with them, trusting them, or promoting them. The tactical takeaway. When betrayed, defend yourself with facts. Never with gossip. Document everything. Keep receipts. Build your case. But deliver it through proper channels to people with the authority to act, not through whisper networks. 3 steps. 1. Try to resolve directly first, give them the off-ramp. 2. If that fails, document and escalate through proper channels, manager, HR, leadership. 3. Never, ever retaliate in kind, that makes you the problem. The backstabber is gambling that you'll either stay silent or retaliate in kind. Disappoint them on both counts. Address it directly, professionally, and with evidence. Because here's what Confucius understood: the person who maintains integrity under pressure is the one people rally around when the dust settles. Attack the evil that is within yourself, rather than the evil that is in others. Analects 12.21. Principle 6. Win political battles by not fighting them, strategic withdrawal. You're right. They're wrong. Everyone in the room knows it. But if you push this to a vote, you're going to win the battle and lose the war. Because the person you'd be defeating is your boss's boss. Or the head of another department whose support you'll need next quarter. Or someone with enough political capital to make your life miserable even in defeat. This is the moment most people destroy their careers. They think winning the argument is what matters. They don't realize they're about to win themselves into irrelevance. Confucius understood something that modern office politics rarely teaches: sometimes the most powerful move is not to fight at all. Not because you're afraid. Because you're strategic enough to recognize that some victories cost more than they're worth. Why this feels wrong? Everything in modern culture tells you to stand up for yourself. To fight for what you believe in. To never back down. That works in films. In real organizations, it's career suicide. Because office politics isn't won by winning every skirmish. It's won by choosing your battle so carefully that by the time you engage, victory is almost certain. I've watched talented people burn themselves out fighting battles they didn't need to fight. They were so committed to being right that they never stopped to ask whether being right on this particular issue was worth what it would cost them. The Confucian framework. Confucius served under rulers who sometimes made catastrophically bad decisions. He didn't fight everyone. He knew that if he opposed everything, his opposition would become meaningless. Instead, he practiced strategic withdrawal: let small battles go, save your political capital for the fights that truly matter, and position yourself so that when you do engage, people take you seriously. His principle: the wise person knows when to speak and when to be silent. Both are forms of power. The fight or not rubric. Before engaging in any battle, assess for factors. 1. Impact. How much does this actually matter to outcomes that affect people's lives or the organization's success? 2. Political cost. What will winning this fight cost you in relationships, goodwill, and future cooperation? 3. Reversibility. If this decision goes the wrong way, can it be corrected later without catastrophic damage? 4. Your standing. Do you have enough credibility and capital to win this fight, or will you spend it all just to get heard? Then apply this rubric. High impact plus low political cost. Fight clearly. High impact plus high political cost. Reframe so others see the importance too. Low impact plus low political cost. Support quickly and move on. Low impact plus high political cost. Withdraw visibly. Most career-limiting mistakes happen in that last quadrant. People fight battles in low impact plus high political cost because they're personally invested in being right, not because winning actually matters. Modern scenario: the software decision. Your company is debating which software platform to use. You've done the analysis. Option A is clearly superior, better features, lower cost, easier implementation. But the VP of another department is pushing hard for option B. Why? Because they have a relationship with that vendor. Or because they championed a similar tool at their last company. Or because their ego is now attached to this decision. If you push option A, you'll probably win based on data. But you'll make an enemy of someone who controls resources you need. Assessment using the rubric. Impact, medium. Option B is not optimal but workable. Political cost, high. VP will remember this. Reversibility, yes. If B doesn't work, you can switch in 12 to 18 months. You're standing, you'd win, but spend all your capital doing it. Decision, withdraw visibly. In the meeting, you say, I've looked at both options. My initial analysis favored option A, but I can see strong arguments for option B as well. If we're going with B, here's how I'd recommend we implement it to maximize effectiveness. You've just acknowledged the VP's position without kissing up. Shifted from opponent to ally. Positioned yourself as pragmatic, not rigid. Saved your political capital for fights that matter. The VP remembers that you didn't make them fight for it. When you need their support later on something that actually matters, you're not that person who opposed me. You're someone reasonable who works towards solutions. When you can't withdraw, reframing the fight. Some battles you genuinely can't avoid. Safety issues. Ethical violations. Decisions that would destroy real value. The key, fight differently. Let's say that software decision isn't trivial. Option B would genuinely cripple your team's effectiveness for years, affecting delivery on board priorities. You don't fight the VP directly. You document the impact. If we go with option B, here's what it means for our ability to deliver X, which is a board priority. Here's the additional headcount we'd need. Here's the timeline delay. Here's the impact on the customer experience metrics the board tracks quarterly. You've shifted from I disagree with the VP to here are business consequences that affect goals everyone cares about. Now you're not the opponent. You're the person raising important considerations. Others join the discussion. The VP now faces broader concerns, not just you. You might still lose. But you fought without making it personal. And you've created a record that protects you if the decision goes badly. The advanced move, you let them win, then be ready. Sometimes strategic withdrawal means letting someone make a mistake you can't prevent. The VP chooses option B over your objections. You document your concerns privately, then support the decision publicly. We're going with option B. Here's how we'll make it work. You implement it as well as possible. But when the predictable problems emerge 6 months later, you have solutions ready. As we discussed during the selection process, we're seeing challenges with X. I've been working on a mitigation plan. Here's what I recommend. You didn't say, I told you so. You proved you were right through reality, not argument. And because you supported the implementation, you're positioned as problem solver, not saboteur. The next time a big decision comes up, people remember. Your judgment gets more weight because you were right last time, and you handled it without ego. The deeper pattern, reputation management. Here's what most people miss about strategic withdrawal. Every fight you choose to skip is a deposit in your serious person or account. If you fight everything, people tune you out. You become the person who always has a problem. When you do engage on something truly important, nobody listens because you've cried wolf too many times. But if you visibly support decisions you could argue against, if you demonstrate you're pragmatic and not just oppositional, then when you do plant your feet and say this one I can't support, people take notice. Wait, they're usually so reasonable. If they're pushing back this hard, maybe we should listen. That's the power of strategic withdrawal. You're not avoiding conflict. You're making your conflict more effective by making it rare. The tactical takeaway. Before every battle, ask, if I win this, what do I actually gain? What will it cost me? If the gain is small and the cost is high, withdraw. Visibly support the other option. Save your reputation as someone worth opposing for the fights where it truly matters. Keep a simple practice. For every battle you're tempted to fight, force yourself to answer. 1. Will people's actual work or lives be materially worse if I lose? 2. Can this be reversed or corrected later without permanent damage? 3. Is this the hill I want to be known for dying on? If the answers are no, yes, and no, let it go. Because here's what most people never learn: the person who rarely fights but wins the fights they choose is far more powerful than the person who fights constantly and wins half. You build a reputation. When they push back, it's serious. We should listen. That reputation is worth more than winning a dozen trivial arguments. The noble person is correctly firm, not merely firm. Confucius, Analects 15.37. Principle 7. Protect your reputation through actions, not words, building trust capital. Two people get caught in the same scandal. Both are accused of the same ethical lapse. One survives. The other's career is over. What's the difference? Not the severity of the accusation. Not legal guilt or innocence. Not even the quality of their defense. The difference is the reputation they built before the crisis hit. Person A had spent years building what Confucius called a moral character demonstrated through consistent action. When the accusation came, people thought, that doesn't sound like them. There must be more to this story. Person B had spent years cutting corners, playing politics, and taking credit. When the same accusation came, people thought, that sounds about right. Same accusation. Different outcomes. Because reputation isn't built in crisis, it's built over years of boring, consistent integrity that no one's paying attention to. Until they are. Why most people get this wrong? They think reputation management is about marketing yourself. Sending updates about your wins. Making sure people know what you've accomplished. Controlling the narrative. That's not reputation management. That's personal branding. And in office politics, there's a critical difference. Personal branding is what you say about yourself. Reputation is what others say about you when you're not in the room. You can control the first. You can only influence the second. And in office politics, only the second matters. The Confucian framework. Confucius taught that the superior person doesn't worry about what people think. They worry about who they are. Because if you become someone worth respecting, respect follows naturally. His principle: build trust capital through consistent small actions, not grand gestures. Trust capital is simple: it's the accumulated goodwill and credibility you build over time. Every promise kept is a deposit. Every corner cut is a withdrawal. Every time you do the right thing when no one's watching, you're building reserves you'll draw on when everyone's watching. Most people think they'll build their reputation through their wins. But reputation is actually built through how you handle the boring Tuesday, the tedious project no one cares about, the moment when cutting a corner would save you hours and no one would know. Modern scenario: the 4:30 Friday test. It's 4:30 p.m. on Friday. You've just realized there's an error in the analysis you sent to leadership this morning. Not a huge error, it doesn't change the conclusion, just makes one supporting data point weaker. You could fix it Monday morning before anyone reads it carefully. Or you could send a correction now, flag the error, and look foolish. Most people's choice: wait until Monday. Hope no one notices. Fix it quietly. Short term, you avoid embarrassment. You get your weekend. Long term, you've just made a small withdrawal from your trust capital. Because if someone does notice, you tried to hide it. And if this happens a few times, small things you didn't correct immediately, you become known as someone who can't be fully trusted with details. Confucian choice. You send the correction immediately. I found an error in the analysis I sent this morning. The conclusion stands, but the supporting data on slide 6 was incorrect. I've attached the corrected version. Apologies for the confusion. Short term, mildly embarrassing. Your weekend is a little less relaxing because you're thinking about the mistake. Long term, you've just made a deposit. Because now you're known as someone who catches and corrects their own errors immediately. When something more serious happens, people think if they say they checked it, they checked it. They have a track record of intellectual honesty. That's trust capital. And here's what's beautiful about it: trust capital compounds. The first few deposits feel like they cost more than they're worth. But over years, you build reserves that protect you when you need them most. The compound effect of boring integrity. You're in a meeting. Someone takes credit for work you did. Most people would speak up, publicly correct the record. That's not wrong. But it's also not the only option. Option A, you correct it publicly. Actually, that was my project. Result, you get credit. You also look petty. You've made an enemy. The person who took credit remembers. So does everyone who watched. Option B, Confucian approach. You let it go in the moment. But you talk to them privately afterwards. Hey, just wanted to flag, when you mentioned X in the meeting, that was actually something I led. I don't think it was intentional, but wanted to make sure credit is clear for future conversations. If they're reasonable, they correct it next time. If they're not, you've documented their behavior privately. But here's what you've really done: you've demonstrated you care more about accuracy than ego. You've shown you handle conflicts privately first. You've built a reputation for being secure enough not to fight over credit publicly. Do that consistently for 2 years, and something interesting happens. When someone tries to take credit for your work, other people correct them for you. Actually, that was your name's project. Your reputation protects itself because you've built trust capital with the people who matter. How to build trust capital systematically. 1. Do what you say you'll do, especially for small things. Most people are reliable on big, visible commitments. But they're casual about small ones. I'll send you that article. Let's grab coffee next week. I'll look at that and get back to you. These disappear into the void. And every broken small promise is a withdrawal. The person who follows through on everything, even tiny commitments, becomes known as unusually reliable. That reputation makes big opportunities flow their way. I keep a simple system: any commitment I make, no matter how small, goes in my task list immediately. Send Sarah that article. Schedule coffee with James. Review David's doc. If I can't do it within 48 hours, I send a quick message: still on my list, will have this to you by a specific date. This takes almost no time. But it builds trust capital every single week. 2. Admit mistakes before they're discovered. If you screwed up, say so before someone else has to point it out. This is counterintuitive. It feels like you're volunteering for punishment. But what you're actually doing is building a reputation for transparency. And in office politics, transparent people are trusted with bigger responsibilities because leaders know they'll hear about problems early, not after they've metastasized. 3. Give credit away generously. When something goes well, mention everyone who contributed. Be specific. Sarah's analysis of the competitive landscape made this possible. David caught the error that would have been a problem. You're not giving away your success. You're multiplying it. Because now Sarah and David actively want you to succeed. And everyone watching knows you're secure enough to share credit, which makes you more promotable than people who hoard it. 4. Be consistent in small interactions. How you treat the intern, the admin, the person in another department who has no power, that's what people notice. Because that reveals character in a way big moments can't. The executive who's watching sees how you treat people who can't advance your career. If you're dismissive or impatient with them, they know you're performing respect upward but not living it. That's a withdrawal. If you treat everyone with the same professionalism, you're demonstrating something rare, actual integrity, not performed integrity. Modern scenario, the crisis test. A major project fails. Your department is under scrutiny. Leadership is looking for explanations. You were involved, but you weren't the lead. You could deflect. I raised concerns early but wasn't in charge. You could stay silent and let the project lead take all the heat. Most people's choice, deflect or stay silent. Protect yourself. Confucian choice. You speak up in the postmortem, here's what I was responsible for. Here's where I could have pushed harder or caught issues earlier. Here's what I'll do differently next time. You don't take blame for things that weren't your responsibility. But you own your part completely. The immediate effect, you look vulnerable. Some people think you're foolish for not deflecting. The long-term effect, leaders remember. That person took responsibility instead of pointing fingers. That's unusual. 6 months later, when a critical new project needs a lead, your name comes up. They're accountable. They won't hide problems. That's trust capital converting to opportunity. And here's what most people miss: taking responsibility doesn't make you look weak. It makes you look like the only person in the room who's honest enough to learn from failure. That's exactly the person leadership wants running important projects. The deeper pattern: small deposits, big withdrawals. Trust capital works like a bank account. You make small deposits consistently over time. Then when you need to make a withdrawal, when you make a mistake, when you need support, when you're under attack, you have reserves. The person with no trust capital built up? When they make one mistake, it defines them. When they need support, no one steps up. When they're attacked, people assume the worst. The person with years of deposits? When they make a mistake, people give them the benefit of the doubt. When they need support, hands go up. When they're attacked, people defend them voluntarily. Same mistake. Different outcomes. The only difference is the reputation they built when times were good. The tactical takeaway. Your reputation is built by what you do when it doesn't matter. It's spent when it does. Stop thinking about reputation as something you manage through visibility or communication. Start thinking about it as something you build through boring, consistent integrity that most people skip because no one's watching. For practices to build trust capital. 1. Keep every promise, especially small ones. 2. Admit mistakes early, before discovery. 3. Give credit generously, naming specific contributions. 4. Treat everyone consistently, regardless of their power. Do these things for a year, and you'll notice opportunities start coming to you. People seek your input. Your name comes up in conversations you're not in. Leaders trust you with sensitive information. That's trust capital at work. Because in office politics, the most powerful insurance policy isn't who you know or what you've accomplished. It's having people think, when your name comes up, they're solid. I trust them. That trust, built over years of small deposits, is worth more than a dozen perfect elevator pitches. The noble person understands righteousness, the small person understands profit. Analects 4.16. Closing, the long game. You've now learned how Confucius would navigate office politics. Not by avoiding it, that's naive. Not by playing dirty, that's corrosive. But by operating within political realities whilst maintaining ethical boundaries. Let me be honest with you, this approach doesn't win every battle. The backstabber sometimes gets the promotion. The sycophant sometimes gets the executive's ear. The person who cuts corners sometimes delivers faster. But here's what 2,500 years of Confucian wisdom teaches: short-term political wins often create long-term strategic losses. The backstabber gets promoted but can't build a team because no one trusts them. The sycophant gets access but never gets real responsibility because executives know they can't think independently. The corner cutter delivers fast but creates messes others have to clean up. Meanwhile, the person who consistently demonstrates li, ren, yi, and who respects hierarchy whilst maintaining integrity, who builds alliances through genuine reciprocity, who speaks truth without making enemies, who defends themselves without becoming what they despise, that person builds something more durable than any political victory. They build a reputation that opens doors they never had to knock on. The paradox of Confucian office politics. The less you need success, the more you attract it. The less you play political games, the more political capital you build. The less you chase visibility, the more people seek you out. This sounds mystical. It's not. It's just pattern recognition. Organizations eventually figure out who's real and who's performing. It takes time, sometimes years, but the truth surfaces. The person who's been consistently ethical whilst politically savvy becomes increasingly valuable as they rise, because that combination is rare. The person who's climbed through manipulation becomes increasingly risky as they rise, because their past catches up to them. I've watched both patterns play out dozens of times. The person who seemed to be winning at year 3 often plateaus at year 7. The person who seemed to be advancing slowly but steadily at year 3 is often running things at year 10. The difference is foundation. One is built on sand. One is built on rock. What this means for tomorrow. You walk into the office tomorrow. Sarah might still try to take credit for your work. Your manager might still ask for the impossible. The executive might still favor the person who flatters them. But now you have a framework. You're not reacting blindly. You're not choosing between be political and maintain integrity. You're operating from a third option that Confucius proved works in the most cutthroat political environments in human history. You know when to speak up and when strategic silence serves you better. You know the difference between respecting authority and debasing yourself. You know how to build alliances that last beyond the immediate transaction. You know how to defend yourself without becoming the villain in someone else's story. This doesn't make office politics pleasant, but it makes it navigable without losing yourself in the process. Your practice for this week: don't try to apply all 7 principles at once. Choose one situation this week where office politics is testing you. Maybe it's a colleague undermining you, Principle 5. A decision you disagree with, Principle 6. A manager you need to navigate, Principle 4. A reputation you need to protect, Principle 7. A truth you need to speak, Principle 3. Apply one principle. Just one. See what happens. Watch how the dynamic shifts when you respond from principle rather than reflex. Notice how people's respect increases when you demonstrate you're playing a longer game than they realized. Then, if you found this useful, 2 things. First, consider which principle resonated most with you. That's probably the one you need to develop most urgently. The principles that feel most challenging are often the ones that would transform your effectiveness most dramatically. Second, recognize that mastering these principles isn't an event. It's a practice. You won't get it right every time. You'll make mistakes. You'll have moments where you react instead of responding. That's fine. Confucian wisdom isn't about perfection, it's about direction. The final truth: office politics will never be pure. Organizations are made of humans, and humans are political animals. There will always be favoritism, manipulation, and games. But you don't have to play by those rules. You can operate in that environment without being of that environment. You can rise without stepping on others. You can influence without manipulation. You can navigate power whilst maintaining the ability to look yourself in the mirror. That's not naivety. That's sophisticated strategy proven over 2,500 years. Confucius faced courts where a political misstep meant death. You face offices where it means a damaged reputation or a missed promotion. The stakes are lower. The principles are the same. And the people who master them don't just survive office politics. They transcend it. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to win at office politics. The goal is to build a career and a life you're proud of in an environment that often makes that difficult. The question isn't whether you can do this. It's whether you will. Because these principles work. They've worked for 2,500 years. They work in ancient Chinese courts and modern British corporations. They work when you're a junior analyst and when you're a senior executive. They work because they're based on something deeper than tactics. They're based on understanding how humans actually operate in power structures and how to navigate those structures with both effectiveness and integrity. The path is there. Confucius laid it out. Countless people have walked it successfully. Now it's your turn. Will you take it?